Hi, welcome to the Art of Shame-Free Living podcast. I was coaching a client recently and we started talking about balance and fairness and rhythms. And she was just mentioning that sometimes she feels like there's kind of an imbalance at home. Maybe that she's doing more work or that her partner's doing more work or whatnot. And we have this idea that things should be kind of fair, right? Almost like completely equal on both sides. I got to do more, you got to do more. And sometimes we swing from I'm not doing enough over to resentment of like, I'm doing it all. I'm doing everything and I don't have the capacity, or maybe I'm not feeling supported. And so it's kind of an interesting conundrum that we kind of find ourselves in with imagining this invisible and also visible load of homework and of real work that we have. I mean, it's both real work, of work that's not homework, child work. And we try to just rack it up and we're like, hey, what am I doing? What are other people doing? And I was thinking about how it's not really about fairness. Fair to me is just a word that holds a lot of sticky energy. It brings me back to childhood. Like, what am I getting? What are other people getting? It feels like a tally, like a rank, like an order. And that's just not how life works. And what feels more real to me is rhythm. Life is full of rhythms. Life is full of seasons. I often believe that if we just looked at nature, everything that we need to know about life, we could learn from nature. And I want you to think about nature. Are trees constantly growing, or do they have the leaves die, or they get composted into soil and then some new growth comes, or even like forest fires. Forest fires will come in and wipe out a forest and then a new forest will grow. Nothing is in a perpetual state of growth and more and growth and more all of the time. And I want you to imagine like how exhausting it would feel for me to feel like I was in a perpetual state of self-improvement, or for me to feel like I always had to be working, or for me to feel like everything was all on me and I had to do everything around the house at all times. I think that things are supposed to be seasonal and I think they're supposed to be rhythmic. And so instead of us trying to define what exactly is mine and what exactly is yours and how can we do that, I like to think of it more in seasons and rhythms. When I'm in a really busy season with work, my husband often supports me in other ways, like maybe he will be in a less busy season at work. Or maybe we're both in a really busy season of finishing a remodeling project because we love to do home remodeling. And maybe we're doing that together. And then maybe we take a time where we're not working a lot. Even in my life, when I look back several years ago, when I started getting into intuitive business coaching, I started recognizing that my intuition would often tell me to slow down, to work less, to spend more time with my kids. And those fleeting moments seemed so precious. And I love that I was able to listen and to spend more time with them, because now that they're all getting older, I can give more time to work and it doesn't feel like it's taking away from them so much. And it just feels like it's always been this flow or this balance of, okay, I can kind of lean towards one direction and feel like maybe I'm working a little too much, or maybe I'm working not enough or whatever. And I'm just kind of focusing on what is life calling me right now toward? What are my insides? What is my intuition calling me towards? Am I in a season of a lot of growth in my business or a lot of growth in life, or where my kids really need me, or where my partner really needs me, or vice versa? And that rhythmic balance feels more true, more real to life. I also think about it. I was chatting with a client about this too, and we were talking about just life, right? If everything was supposed to be fair, imagine a parent-child relationship. How fair is that, right? A parent takes care of everything, literally. We're in charge of emotional, physical, mental wellness, all the stuff. And a child doesn't really give back. I mean, they give back in a lot of love and joy and, other ways. But if it was only in output, external value created or something, there's not a lot. And even when we get older and our children are taking care of us, it probably still doesn't really even out or balance out the amount that we put in when they're little. But then they go and they grow up and they have their own children. And that feels much more rhythmic than this perfect balance that we're looking for, right? Then they go into the season of them taking care of their children and so on and so on and so on. So all that to say, notice, are you in a season of busyness? Are you a season of slowness? What is life calling you toward? If you're in a slow season, embrace the slow. Don't try to rush and push to the next busy thing. If you're in a season of busy, how can you support yourself? How can you support your growth? Maybe you can delegate. Maybe you can hire people to help and support you. Maybe you can have conversations with people around you to help you. When we're feeling resentment, that emotion specifically is telling us that we are showing up in the world in a way that doesn't feel good to us. There's an incongruence within us. It's a message for us about us. So if you're feeling resentment, bitterness, frustration, listen to those messages from those emotions, and see what they're there for. See what message they are there for. Sit with them in kindness and in love. Sit with yourself, sit with your feelings. You can go through and do one of the subconscious practices I have on this podcast if you'd like support with that. And then listen to your heart. What is your heart saying? What we're going for is congruence. And when we're feeling resentful or bitter or frustrated, we are going to over boundary or under boundary. Over boundary being like, I'm going to be controlling. Maybe I'm going to be coercive. Maybe I'm going to I will take everything on and I will do it all by myself. Under boundary, maybe I'm not sticking up for myself. Maybe I'm not asking for support. Maybe I'm not setting up support for myself. There's lots of different ways that we can show up, but it's going to kind of perpetuate the feelings of resentment and frustration and bitterness that we're feeling, maybe even inadequacy under the surface there. So pausing, sitting, feeling through the feeling, allowing it to be present in our body, and then moving through. That's the way. And then just intuitively asking, what's on my heart? What season am I in? What am I being called to focus my intention on? Wherever my intention is, that's where my attention is going to flow to. So what is my intention being called towards right now? What do I feel like this season is calling me? Maybe it's really lovely that you have less clients this summer and you just get to play with your kids. I remember the season of travel. And when we were traveling for 8 months around the world, I remember thinking, oh, I need to get more clients. I need to work more. But that didn't actually line up. I wasn't getting more clients. I actually, when I felt down to it, I didn't really want more either. I actually wanted to just be playing with my kids and exploring and adventuring. And so can we lean more heavily into the season that we're actually in and appreciate it and be there and be present for it instead of feeling like we should be in a different season than we're at? Can we be a little more like nature? A little bit less like maybe capitalism or like society might tell us is better, and allow ourselves to be in those seasons of growth and those cycles. And I think women have cycles for a reason. Can we listen to even those cycles, right? Can we rest when we're being called to rest? And yeah, it'll be uncomfortable. It's going to bring up discomfort, and that's matter that we then get to work through. That's also teaching us something, that's showing us something. So anyways, those are my thoughts for today. More rest, more rhythm, less trying to make things perfect, fair, perfectly balanced, and mete it out. And also taking time to really listen to those uncomfortable emotions, especially resentment, especially bitterness, especially frustration, especially inadequacy, because moving through that will help us to really feel differently and really live in alignment with a life that feels more congruent to us. Integrity means wholeness. And I think that wholeness that we'll find on the inside through sitting with those feelings will really manifest on the outside in our world, in our careers, and in our lives, in our relationships. So good luck, and we will see you next week.